It's gone better, should we say, than almost the first one. We've got more of the Hapgood family along today, and a few generations that hadn't seen the plaque before.
Do you think 6 years is rather a long time since the first dedication, isn't it? Seeing that it was taken off the wall 2.5 years ago, and now at long last we've now got it back up on the wall in the new area of Barton Hill. It's the first plaque that's moved around from site to site, as far as I'm aware. So, do you think the new site's appropriate?
Well, I think it's perfect. I mean, we had to take it off the other building because we didn't know what the future of that building was. I mean, the building is still there. It could have still been there, but as it's worked out, to actually put it in its own street is fantastic, and we couldn't have sort of thought of that in the beginning, or how it's worked out. It's marvellous.
I noticed today with Mike Hapgood's speech that when he was talking about his father, Eddie was such a modest man, you know, he wouldn't say too much about his achievements, but he was an amazing guy, and his record, you know, as a footballer is really outstanding, you know, and should be a much higher profile today, I would have thought, as an inspiration for today's football players. Do you agree with that?
Well, that's right. If he was playing today, he would be a massive superstar. It'd be the equivalent of sort of David Beckham, captain of England. But even in the 1930s, he was still an idol of all the local lads, like my father would have been at the time. And when he used to come back to Barton Hill, which he did quite often, to visit his mother in Ranley Street and the rest of his family, you know, you can imagine with the local kids when they saw him, you know, it was fantastic. Even in those days, I mean, footballers were reasonably well paid, nothing like what they are today, but they could still afford nice suits. Some of them had cars. I think Eddie had a car in the 1930s, and so he was still looked up to and would have still been, you know, held in high esteem even in the 1930s.
So very much a positive role model then and now.
Yeah, because he was such a good player, but not a dirty player, and not any sort of tactics that no. So he was a gentleman, yeah.
And of course that wouldn't have been unique for those days, wouldn't it? Because most of the players were gentlemen, you know.
I think they were. You didn't get diving and all the other things that go on these days. But it was still tough. Yeah, it was a tough game, and he was a tough player. Yeah.
What do you fair, I think probably would be the best way of saying. There's a couple of legendary stories, aren't there, in the 1930s when they played Italy, when Eddie was, how can you put it, given a very friendly Italian handshake, and he ended up with a broken nose, along with quite a few other players who ended up on the treatment table, because at the time England and Italy and Austria were the three top teams in the world, and you know, so there was quite a bit of controversy about that, you know, but he was a fantastic player, and it's brilliant to be here today and see a whole street named after him, and the family are chuffed to bits with what's been done. Yeah.
These are words from Gary Atherton, another leading light in the Barton Hill History Group, who, along with Dave Cheesley and many others, helped to get this plaque created in the first place. Now, what I wanted to ask you was the birthplace site in Union Road that dings. There's also a smaller plaque there, which is more like a circular drain cover. Is the birthplace site still exist, or is that plaque just covers a site near to where the birthplace site was?
Well, I didn't know about that one, but where he would have been born would be in where the little housing estate that was built, I think in the sort of late 20s, early 30s was built. So those houses don't exist anymore, and the old Union Road, as it was, disappeared. So the actual site, you'd have difficulty in finding exactly where he lived, because I've tried to locate it and I can't find it exactly, but I know where Union Road was. Yeah.
And does the present site of Union Road cover the same alignment? Are there photographs of the old Union Road there?
I've never come across any photos of what it was like before the council houses were built there. So that's the difficulty. I've found it on the census, but it doesn't tell you exactly where it is.
Have you seen that cover?
I haven't seen that one.
The Hapgood family mentioned it. They've been out today walking around the site and looking at the area, and it's quite amazing for the next generation down. So that's it. Eddie's son's children to experience this area, because I think it's quite a shock for some people maybe to appreciate the huge amount of changes that East Bristol's gone through in the last 100 years since Eddie's birth.
That plaque I mentioned, that circular one, there's another one nearby commemorating the life of boxer Terry Ratcliffe, because Barton Hill and the Dings was also a favourite haunt of boxers in the 20s and 30s. And so it just shows you that there's a diversity of sports, trades and things in an area as busy as this one, as close to the city centre as possible, given its proximity, given the changes that's happened, and this of course is the latest change with Hapgood Street as an addition. How do you think today's generations and future generations will think of people like Eddie and Terry, and the very fact that they grew up from a world of poverty to achieve status and change the world as they saw it?
Well, I think if we do this sort of thing, by putting up plaques and the booklet we've done, that promotes them and brings it to the attention of today's youngsters. And as far as boxing is concerned, there's quite a thriving boxing club in Barton Hill, but up at the old settlement where the Settlement Youth Club was. So, that remembering these people like the Radcliffes, is a good thing, I think.
I mean, the History Group's been going 26 years now, and our philosophy is always about trying to make sure we keep touching with the past, so that the things that we do is just to make sure that our generation and future generations understand the contribution that people made to what we've got today.
That's very much echoes many thoughts that we need positive role models now more than ever. They need to serve as an inspiration to people to prove that they can do things and change things with help, but they can do it.
Yeah.
And it's very important, because a day like today, when we're commemorating Eddie Hapgood for the second time in 6 years, with a street with his name on it, it's absolutely amazing that that can happen. That local communities can have an input in helping to shape the area in which they live in, and also remember those who've come before them, because each generation's a custodian, and we all try to sort of remember those who've come before us, so that we can inspire those who follow us.
Excellent. I agree.
Exactly.
With that. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Thanks for your contribution to the history of Barton Hill and the surrounding areas.
Thanks very much for letting me be involved.
Lovely. One more. The last one is this. Just lean out, Rob. Because we've got this beautiful nostalgia. And you kind of just as high as you can. Yeah, that's right. And you'll kind of do that. And then lean into that. I'd love to see that. That's it. I'll point out. So just come out gently. That's it. A bit more. Lovely. You do that a fraction that way. That's it. And you'll go behind the gentleman there. So see right through the middle. Okay. Then show that's it. That's it. Fabulous. Come back a little bit over. That's lovely. Thank you. Right on me. That's gorgeous. That's full of nostalgia. Chin up the young lady here. That's lovely.